Ludicrous Feed is proudly sponsored by Carloop Data and Koba Car Insurance.
Hey everyone, today we're covering the Peugeot e-2008 EV here in Sydney, Australia, knowing that there is a already superseded version of this car in Europe. But we'll do a walk around and test drive today of this car, which is essentially an electrified version of the ICE version of the 2008 from Peugeot, starting at $59,900 before on-road costs here in Australia. It's got a 50 kilowatt hour battery, about 47 kilowatt hour usable, 328 kilometers of WLTP range, slightly less in the real world, which I'll go through later on. It's got a front wheel drive powertrain, 100 kilowatts, 260 newton meters of torque, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 8 seconds or thereabouts, 11 kilowatts AC charging, 100 kilowatts DC charging. Let's have a look at the wheels and tires. So same front and back, 18-inch Michelins. There it is from the back, e-2008 badging. Very much the same Peugeot styling that we all know. GT badging there. Here it is from this side. Got plastic covering the fenders. Bit of trim down here to make it more interesting. Interesting design down here. See how the lines branch off, one up the top, one down here. Door handles aren't flush. Roof rails, and there's a sunroof up the top which opens up, which I'll go through once we're inside the car. Standard mirrors, blind spot monitoring, some more e-badging there, just to remind you it's electric. And there it is, the Peugeot electrified e-2008. Quick look at the charge port from this side, push to open, CCS2, DC's covered. Override the schedule, unlock, push to close. Let's have a look at the boot. And by the way, there is a rear wiper as well. There's the Peugeot Lion. Tailgate is manual. This car is about the same size as the MG4, slightly smaller than the Atto 3, and very similar size to the Hyundai Kona as well, which is $6,000 cheaper, $54,000 before on roads. Of course, the two Chinese competitors, the MG4 and the Atto 3, much less in price compared to the Peugeot. Tiny bit of storage on the left, as well as the right. Storage under here as well. And then a tyre repair kit and compressor under here. 60-40 split for the back row. And this bag comes with just a Type 2 cable. I don't see a slow charger included with this kit. Got a parcel shelf here, which is removable. And then just the old-fashioned pull down. Got to do the door close test. Yep, feels pretty solid. Same with the back. Nice. And looks like the rear glass is either tinted or privacy glass compared to the front. And it's styled very much like either a hatchback or a small crossover SUV. And ultrasonic sensors throughout the vehicle, front and back and sides. Some more sensors on the back bumper. And just the one reversing camera. Upon entry into the car, nice Peugeot badging there, and it's powered seats, seat back, slide, and also a massage chair function as well, which is quite nice, and extra controls for lumbar support. Okay, so sitting in the driver's seat now, this is your view, and essentially the steering wheel is set very low, and that's because there is this 3D cockpit that sits above the steering wheel, which I don't mind personally because you can actually see the whole screen on top of the steering wheel. And the dash is actually set quite high, and so is the bonnet as well. I'll show you what I mean when I go for a drive later on. Let's have a look around the cabin. So pretty good interior, fairly soft materials throughout. Nice touch with the carbon fiber throughout the front of the cabin as it wraps around both seats. And premium stitching as well throughout and on the seats too. Not quite bucket seats, but pretty comfortable. A softer fabric here with that same green stitching throughout. It's panning up here. Nice soft materials too, gives it that premium feel, not too firm, and soft materials up here as well. And same with here on the door. Down here on the armrest, usual mirror controls, window lock and child door locks are here as well, so that took me a while to work out. Window controls, extra bit of storage down here as usual, and then performance type pedals too. Down here, buttons for auto steer when cruise control is on, same with lane keeping assist. Air conditioning vents on either side, and then middle air conditioning vents here too. Start stop button, back to the steering wheel. You've got left-sided indicate, automatic headlights and fog lights, and then panning across here, you've got wipers for the back and front, automatic rain sensing for the front. Now this button here runs through the trip computer, so I'll go through that right now. So I'll just show you on the screen here. So currently 48% state of charge, estimated 140 kilometers of range. I've had this trip computer running since I took this car for loan. 345 kilometers I've driven, 16.7 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, traveling at approximately 29 kilometers an hour on average. 16.7 is kind of on the high side of efficiency for most cars I've driven. So I might as well run through the 3D cockpit now. You can see that there's 2 layers of information there, which casts a shadow on the layer behind for the speedometer, and other information like the trip computer. As you can see, that was kind of above the information below. It was sitting slightly above the rest of the screen. So I've got navigation running on this screen here, which also translates to this cockpit screen here. Then you've got on this right side here, whether you're using battery power, whether it's efficient, or whether you're using regenerative braking as you're slowing down. Automatic rain sensing wipers present. That's auto steer when the cruise is running. We'll show you that when we go for a drive, and the odometer is down in the bottom right corner as well. You see on this side here, the gauge looks very much like a petrol tank. I was worried that you wouldn't be able to see the charge remaining, but of course to see the charge, you press that side button once again each time to see your current state of charge, 48%. This housing is quite nice, bit of light coming through, bit of contrast. Let's go through the steering wheel controls. This is more for phone controls and media entertainment, horn in the middle, and then this side here for volume control as well. And pushing this button here runs through the different menus here on the cockpit. So you can switch between the different views, navigation view, just driving view like that. And there's dials, which is a big speedometer like that. Or if you want to concentrate on energy, there you go. Definitely a front wheel drive vehicle. And you can customize them as well, or just have minimum, which is obviously just the speedometer, like that. There's a manual latch down here for steering wheel height adjustment, and then there's a smaller stalk here just below the indicator stalk for the cruise control. I'll try to show what it looks like. It's a bit difficult with the angle of it, but essentially it's for cruise control. That's for the leading car, how close you want to follow, and you can activate cruise control with this little dial here. And then this is the pause cruise control, and then behind the stalk is to adjust the maximum speed of the cruise control. All right, let me walk you through the rest of the cabin before we go through the infotainment screen. So some more buttons here, a mix of physical buttons and haptics. Seat heating here. So most of this is for air conditioning, recirculate, off, AC max, hazard lights here, lock the car, and the demisters. And then you've got haptic buttons here for activating the source of your music or media. Temperature control here, navigation, and then settings for the car, which we'll go through later on, phone controls, and then activate the different apps such as Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and other connected apps. And then that's the energy screen as well. So wired Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You've got USB-A on this side, which I've been plugging in my phone into, and then another charge port here, USB-C. I'm not sure if this is officially a sunglass holder, but this is where I've been storing my sunnies. Extra bit of storage here too. No wireless charging, 12-volt plug. And then we've got the gear shifts down here, which when you put the foot on the brake, you can switch like that. And then park brake. And then this B button here switches between gentle regenerative braking and stronger, harsher regenerative braking. Nevertheless, the first part of pushing the friction brakes still activates regen braking. But if you prefer a harsher regen feel, then put the B button on. There's no one-pedal driving. Bit more carbon fiber down here. Lots of piano black, unfortunately. Park brake. There's the drive mode. So switch between, I'll show you what I mean on the screen here. So you've got Eco, Normal, Sport. I've been running on Normal mainly this week for that efficiency test. Now we know the WLTP is 328 kilometers, but with an efficiency of 16.7 kilowatt hours, The way I've been driving this week, you can probably get about 280 kilometers of real-world range with mixed urban and highway use. Okay, so just back down here, cup holders, pretty standard, one's deeper than the other one, and then extra bit of storage down here. Pretty standard on the passenger side, powered windows, cup holder storage, and then glove box. Let's check out the bonnet before we go into the back row. So let's pull it up. Walk around here. It's got a latch probably. I'm sure it does. Okay, no storage. Okay, so just quickly back in the driver's seat. Got a handle there. Front visor. Mirror light. Ticket holder. Doesn't extend. Same with the passenger side. Mirror light. Ticket holder as well. And then you've got this moonroof or sunroof, whatever you want to call it, which luckily can be shaded. It's not automatic, but that's okay. Easy enough to reach around to the back, my hand, and then you can open the actual glass itself. So let's vent it first. So that's just to vent it, and then you can push it all the way to open. So it opens halfway, and then to close it back like that. Got lights here, and then more alerts up here for occupant seatbelt use. Okay, so let's hop into the second row, and straight away you notice it's clearly not a ground-up EV. There is a massive transmission hump here in the middle. Nevertheless, let's hop in. And harder materials here with the seat back, contrasted with the softer material here. The rear door is actually harder than the front door. There's a softer material at the front. More carbon fibre here. Power windows, storage down here for drinks. Got a mesh sleeve here. For me, not too tall, 175 centimetres, so adequate legroom down here. Fairly deep footwells actually, considering. USB-A ports here, and that's your view from the back. It's good having an option to close it for the heat of summer, of course. It's good to see a light here as well on the back row, because sometimes with these cars I review, especially the ones without a moonroof or sunroof, to give it more light in the back. So good to see there's light switches here in the back too. And there's no center armrest, but we can see ISOFIX child anchor points here as well in the second row. Now I know the sun's out at the moment, but throughout the front of the cabin there is LED lighting, just to give it a bit more contrast when you're driving at night time. Okay, let's run through the infotainment system really quickly. So if I just go back to the main screen here, got all the settings that you want for your lights, parking function. That was quite handy this morning, rear wiper in reverse when it was raining. Headlight settings, fairly standard these days in high-end cars. And lots of safety features here as well. Active safety brake, blind spot monitoring, traffic sign recognition, driver attention warning. You can turn them on or off, which is good. Charging, statistics. You can see what's been happening for the last 30 minutes, all the way up to the last 3 hours. And then charge settings as well. You can defer your charging time if you're using off-peak tariff. And there are profile settings as well. Now the nav setting is fairly basic. There's no EV trip planning. I can't see any charges on map either. And to plug anything in takes a little while to calculate. So if I say go to Melbourne, this is going to take a long time to calculate how to get there. Okay, so a minute has passed and now it's telling me how to get to Melbourne. But again, no reference to when you need to charge the car, which is a bit disappointing given this is an EV. Nice little knob down here to bring the volume up and down for the passenger, and that's the mute. Alright, well that was a quick walkthrough of the interior infotainment system and the drive cluster screen for the Peugeot e-2008. Let's go for a test drive. Alright, let's go for a drive. I figure that's the best way to show you guys the capabilities and performance of this vehicle. That's the reversing camera. Stays on a little bit after you drive off. No 3D camera. And I'm using wired Apple CarPlay because the Navigation is so rudimentary. Bit of torque steering there, just accelerating in the wet out onto the road. No wireless Apple CarPlay for now. So, what can I tell you about this vehicle? So, yeah, I think its main competitive set is going to be the MG4 and Atto 3. Both cars are just far more compelling in price, and I don't think the premium features in this vehicle are enough, I think, to sway most people. Tiny bit of torque steering again. Yeah, it's not going to be enough, I think, to sway most people given the price. $59,000 for this before on roads. And I think, you know, even if you don't want to buy a Chinese vehicle like the MG4 or even the Atto 3, then even the Hyundai Kona, which is $54,000 before on roads, is probably still more compelling than the Peugeot e-2008. In fact, look, there's an Atto 3 in front of us there. And given the fact that this is already a superseded vehicle in Europe, it's going to be a hard sell. So hopefully Peugeot will bring the new one to Australia, make it more compelling for us. The 3008 is also, I think, going to be released soon as well in Australia, so we'll make sure we'll get onto that to review. So front wheel drive, you can see that in the i-Cockpit. And as I said, it's sitting above the steering wheel, so the wheel is actually set quite low. It's kind of an odd feeling. Most of the time with these instrument clusters, you're looking through the steering wheel, but this one you're definitely sitting above. And the bonnet feels quite high as well, relatively speaking, with this view. So as I said before, that you can switch between the different screens. So this is like an energy screen, you can see ahead there. Front wheel drive, if I let go of the throttle, which I am, energy is going back from the wheels or the wheels into the motor into the battery. And then if you want a harsher regen brake, then you can switch the B on. And I can feel straight away the car is slowing down. But if you want kind of a more coast feel, then let go of the B onto D, get more regen. But now if we put the throttle on, you can see the battery flow going back into the wheels and motor. We'll test out cruise control later on when we get onto the freeway. In terms of the handling, I don't know, I feel like this car is actually quite buoyant. For such a small car, it feels like it's rolling around a little bit. Doesn't feel as firm to drive. I know I'm on normal mode. It's a little bit firmer on sport mode, but not that much more. And you saw a bit of torque vectoring, or torque steering with the front wheel drive motors. Sound installation's not too bad. Obviously on nice smooth roads like this, it's fairly quiet. Pretty good cabin insulation. I think it handles well enough to get around for such a small car through city traffic. There's a bit of a lag to accelerate as well, even more so than some of the other cars I've driven. I know Tesla acceleration is like the most instantaneous out there, market leader when you want that kind of instantaneous torque, but this one particularly feels quite laggy. And comparing this to the petrol version of the e-2008, it's not that much faster for that 0 to 100 km/h acceleration time. Getting a little bit of roll just driving around here, cornering, even on smooth roads like this. Small bump. And the sound system's actually pretty good, I've got to say, for this car. No one pedal driving, so you've got to put the brake on. Can't quite find the auto hold function for this car. I've tried looking, I just cannot find it, so I have to rest my foot on the brake at traffic lights. Someone's trying to turn right, so let's see how quickly we can accelerate out. Oh, see, I just don't feel confident. It's so much slippage. It doesn't accelerate that quickly. Okay, zipping out of this lane. better that time, a bit more warning. And the ADAS is not too intrusive in this car, which is good. Gives you speed sign information as well. As I said before, you can switch between the different screens. So if I just say I want dials, you've got a big speedo there. Just driving, a bit more information. If I want navigation, I don't have, oh I do, okay, so nav is up there. And you can see the 3D effect from the i-Cockpit. So some information is cast just in front of the information behind, with the shadowing too, so that's quite a nice effect. We'll leave the energy screen on since we're driving an EV. Keep an eye on regen braking and power usage. Oh, this is what the fob looks like too. Pretty standard. See that bit of a lag just out of the blocks. Still enough to beat the car beside me. Okay, so we're about to head onto the Bradfield Highway or Warringah Freeway, whatever you want to call it. The approach onto the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Try to test out the cruise control on quicker roads like this. Bit of roadworks on the highway this year. It's okay. Let's see how responsive this car is to navigate. Yeah, I mean, could this car be used as a touring car? I don't know. 300 kilometers is not enough, I think, to feel confident to drive that much without charging again. Particularly when the real world range is probably closer to 280, and then you want to charge it sort of 20 to 10%, so probably more like 200 to 250, even less on the highway. So I don't know. I think, especially with a charging speed of 100 kilowatts, this is probably going to serve well as mostly as a city car, urban vehicle with an occasional long day trip maybe. So yeah. I think there are probably more compelling options out there for a touring vehicle. Let's test out cruise. So I've got cruise on. You see how it switched to night mode pretty quickly, but comes back. And if I hang on to the buttons behind the steering wheel here, it jumps up by, I think, was it 5? Yeah, 5 kilometers an hour. I'll adhere to the speed limit, which is 60. There is auto steer, lane centering. I'll try to test it out today. You can also follow distance as well for the leading car. You can set that, so that's these ones. Oop. There you go. Normal, close. We'll go close since we're in Sydney. And since I've got to cut out into the right lane, I might just switch cruise off for a second. Welcome to Sydney, everyone. Crossing crazy amount of lanes to get to where we want to be. All right, and we'll pop cruise back on again. There we go. Still 60 for now in the roadworks area. This is where cruise is quite handy in traffic jams or slow traffic, because then you can follow the leading car fairly closely without having to stop-start, brake and accelerate all the time. Let the car do its job. A bit of blue sky, it's good. All right, I can see a 70 speed sign, so we'll bring it up to 70. Lane centering is pretty good so far. Not ping-ponging, just staying in the middle. Though what I don't like is sometimes it just deactivates without any warning. So that's dangerous. That's why it's always still level 2 autonomy at the moment, even with lane centering, because it's just going to take over any time, right? You've got to supervise it like crazy. And that goes for like most autonomy type ADAS I've driven over the years, testing all these cars. Cannot unsupervise or leave this unsupervised at all. So I think this is where it's quite useful having this lane centering on the highway if you are going to go on a road trip with this vehicle. Being able to just leave it for a bit, hands on the wheel still, but like you can just supervise rather than actively turning the steering wheel. It's doing a good job of following the car ahead. Only just beating the train, just. That's the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Done. Alright everyone, well this is the Peugeot e-2008. Again, many thanks to Peugeot Australia for the loan of this vehicle. In summary, $60,000 before on roads. Lots of competition around this segment, both at this price point and also at this size of vehicle as well. We talked about the MG4, we talked about the Atto 3 for this size of vehicle, and they are probably more compelling given the price differential between this car and those cars for the same size. Certainly this car has a more premium interior compared to those ones. The tech seems a bit outdated. Hopefully we'll see software updates in time. Also a hard sell because this is a super-seated vehicle, we know that. The new 2008 is available in Europe, so hopefully we'll see that in Australia as well. At the $60,000 price mark, or at least $59,000, you can almost buy a Tesla Model 3, almost buy a Tesla Model Y, honestly, which is a bigger vehicle. You can definitely buy a BYD Seal for the $59,000 price mark. Compared to another French car like the Renault Megane E-Tech, which I reviewed last week or a couple of weeks ago on the channel, between the two, I mean, this car probably feels a bit more premium. Certainly feels more solid, both for the similar battery size, I know. Megane E-Tech probably has a better styling, but felt more flimsy, a bit more dated, both software and interior as well, whereas this is a more premium finish. I do like this i-Cockpit look. That's quite nice. So yeah, I think, you know, who's going to buy this vehicle? Well, it's certainly a good town runabout, good town car for the occasional day trip. Probably not enough range for a long distance touring vehicle. Yeah, it's the price is up there. The efficiency is not great either. 16.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which is what I got with my week's worth of loan. So yeah, I think you're really going to have to want to buy a French vehicle. You're going to have to be a Peugeot fan to take this car. Particularly also because this car is, I think, almost $20,000 more than the ICE equivalent. And this is where I think, you know, automakers, if they really want to make EVs work, they have to produce a vehicle that's not an electrified version of their ICE car, because naturally you're just going to compare the two, right? You're going to compare this car to its ICE form and go, why should I pay more? Whereas if you develop a brand new vehicle, even though you are an ICE maker, then there's nothing to compare it to. Suddenly it's a new platform, a ground-up EV platform. So I think that's the way to go. If you're a legacy auto, you just got to put the effort in to create an EV from the ground up that you cannot really compare to its ICE equivalent if you want to make it compelling. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. But this is the Peugeot e-2008. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Leave a comment below to let me know what you think about this car. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. And until the next Ludicrous feed video, happy charging.